Exciting times here at this small time, as you can see. Or maybe that's not quite the right way of putting it. We have got almost the whole roof up on the wood store. We have in fact just one bay left to go, and then we will be watertight. And we have put down all the flooring that we can. We got 4 pieces of this mesh, and so 4 of the bays have got the floor. These are the bays that are storing the firewood. We weren't sure what we were going to do with these final 2 bays, but we've decided to floor them. So we will have to purchase the requisite materials for that, which is the wood and the metal. Nevertheless, we've got these 4, and what I'm going to do now is start the process, if not finish it, of stapling down the metal to the wood. All done. Good morning. As I'm filming this, it's very late May, and we're about a month off the winter solstice, which is the shortest day of the year. And today is also the first day that we lost power. So, as you may or may not know, we're off grid for some services, primarily electricity and water. We don't have gas, so we have to generate our own electricity, and this is where our system is housed. This is our inverter, which is the thing which takes the electricity the solar panels generates and sends it to the house and sends it to our battery storage. As you can see, these are the parameters that we work to, and this is the situation. So technically the battery is more than empty at the moment, but as you can see here, it's now sufficiently light outside that it's starting to charge. So the reason that we ran out of power is because it's been pretty cloudy the last few days. Generally, Will and I are pretty conservative when it comes to our electricity use, and we've made certain compromises to cope with this system, in that we don't have a fridge, for example, and I'm very cautious about when I do things like laundry. It has to be a bright sunny day. However, there's not a cloud in the sky this morning, which means that even though the sun technically isn't really up yet over our house and certainly isn't directly shining on our solar panels, there's sufficient light to mean that we are now generating enough electricity to be able to do stuff. There are things that I wouldn't mind doing to improve the system, but they're all very expensive and not something that we can get done straight away. I'm looking out here because you might also be able to see this sort of whitey grey stuff on our neighbour's orchard, and even a bit down here is evidence of the first frost-ish of the winter, or autumn winter. I don't know if it's a true frost. You know, sometimes you get that sort of really damp grass which sort of looks like a frost but is actually just wet. Could be that. Hasn't crept up to the house yet. There's obviously a lot of sort of latent heat around the house through the building, the hard standing and the plants, but in the wider property, that's where we'll start getting frosts first. I am off this morning to be a lumberjack. I'm focusing this morning on more of the clearing and thinning the living trees, and I'm going to be working over there in front of me up the Mr Darcy Walk this morning, and then this afternoon I'll be turning my attention to clearing the Mr Darcy Walk as part of the expansion project. So it's a very Mr Darcy Walk day today, but I don't mind that. Will's kindly lent me his car because I'll be generating material that I'll need to transport up to the house to process for firewood or over to the bonfire, which is over there, to burn at some point in the future. I'm going to crack on though with my lumberjacking duties of this morning. Here we are then at the Mr Darcy Walk. And just to reiterate, what I'm going to be doing is thinning out the living but not thriving, barely living trees. So we can take this one as an example. We can see how after the bushfire it started to sprout a little bit on the trunk. But if you pan up to the top of the tree, there's really not much going on up there. It's dead from the sort of waist up. And what is growing is meagre and poultry. So this tree isn't never going to amount to anything now. Not only is it affected by the bushfire and struggling to regenerate, but it's in amongst these much bigger, taller, more mature trees which are stifling its ability to grow. So by taking this out, I'm creating a slightly more open environment, and as you can see, we're starting to get a much more diverse number of plants on the forest floor, which is good. So I am sparing this tree having to bother, and I'm creating a more diverse habitat as I go about it. And all along this section here, which sort of is, if you can imagine it, because you can't see it, between our pond, which is there, and the Mr Darcy Walk, which is here. So we've got this little strip of woodland which extends around the pond like that. It's not very broad, but then it feeds into the backwoods behind the house. I focus on these areas first because of their proximity to the house and their proximity to our neighbouring property. So I'm wanting to prioritise that which is most dangerous potentially, and then I'll work my way back in the backwoods to prioritise the diversity in that part of the property. So I'm going to crack on. Here we go then. I don't often show off my haul, but I'm very pleased with that. A nice mixture of widths and sizes and states of death. The good thing about these trees, although technically they're alive, a large portion of them are dead, which means that it's not going to take so long to season. I'm going to add it to my pile here of wood that I've already started off last week. I can't yet put it in the wood store, which is behind me, because the bays that it's going to sit on aren't made yet, and I can't stack wood until they are. But another thing that's great about this is that previously the wood processing area and the wood equipment storage area were miles apart. All that stuff was over there. But now, although this isn't finished, it's just here. Everything I need, my log splitter and my Logosol, to be able to process this wood within easy walking distance. And then once we're able to store the wood in here properly, it'll be even closer to hand, because I will probably process the wood right in front of the building. These little things make all the difference, as Japanese industrialists are well aware. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with processing this. I'll catch up with you later. sadly when it comes to processing firewood there can be victims. And I have here a pair of what I believe, but don't quote me, are witchetty grubs. Those things that you'll see being eaten on nasty television programmes. They burrow into the wood and live in there until such time as they come out as I have no idea what. If I can find that out, I'll flash it up on the screen. They're sort of like, to look at, as you can probably tell, kind of giant scrunched up maggots. However, whilst it's a shame for these animals, they will nevertheless provide food for all of these currawongs which are flapping about excitedly, or perhaps even a different type of bird. So it's a shame for them, but they won't go to waste. Something will enjoy it and derive a great deal of benefit from it. Welcome to yet another beautiful morning. I've started here on the Logosol because I mentioned it in passing yesterday and I showed you it folded up, but I thought I'd briefly just talk you through it if you haven't met it before. This is the device upon which we chainsaw up the wood. So I've just been up the backwoods this morning and brought this load down. And this is how we process it. This is a device which Will found, and we went to a place quite close to Melbourne to collect it. It is Scandinavian, and as you probably know, the Scandinavians do know a thing or two about wood processing. So as a consequence, it's very high quality. It's made out of metal. We've had it for maybe 3 or 4 years now, and it practically looks brand new still. How it works is essentially, this is a clamp, and as you can see, it's got a series of holes. It's got 4 holes, and you remove it just by pulling it off like this and putting it back on like that. And what that does is adjusts the height of the aperture so that this is the lowest setting for the smallest wood, and that would raise the height of it so it can clamp really quite substantial pieces of wood actually. I was doing stuff yesterday which was wider than my head, and I've got a big head. What I like about it also is that because of the angle that it clamps it on, you'd never really get a problem with pinching, even with longer bits of wood. So that's really great. And as you saw yesterday, it folds down flat. This isn't an ad. This is just a recommendation if you're looking for something that is well made, durable, practical, in that it stores really well because it folds down flat, is manoeuvrable, and will aid you in the processing of wood for any sort of purpose. I thought I'd finish with a quick Mr Darcy Walk expansion project update. This is more or less the line where I started, and my first goal was this tree, so I have today made it to that tree. So the Mr Darcy Walk is now approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 metres longer than it was. I've just been mowing it, and the mower is basically the line at which I started at. I thought this would be a nice place to stop. I also thought whilst I'm here, I'll just quickly show you what the rest of the Mr Darcy Walk looks like beyond that. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a thicket of tea tree left to go, but once I've got beyond that, at least for maybe another 20 metres or so, it's mostly just this tufty grass, which the mower can cope with. It's not It's usually fond of it, but it can do it. What I might do is take it down there with the brush cutter next time. Make life a bit easier for the mower. And if we keep going up, try and pick our way through, find the best route. These animal tracks are always a pretty good guide. You'll see I've got a few trees here, a little bit of an extra thicket of tea tree there, and that's the bridge. That's the path down to the bridge, and just the other side of this is the path to the gate, which is sort of there. So I guess what I should do really, although it fills me with dread, what I should do really is then clear this little wodge of tea tree, the last little section. I say little, not that little. And that brings me out to the path. I guess what thinking as I go, what I could do is maybe just take some of that out because it's a bit in the way, and just send this path through this clumpy grass. I think that would be acceptable. I don't necessarily mind this little clump here. There's the bridge. So yes, I might do that. I might take that out, clear this, make this the way onto the Mr Darcy Walk. This is quite a good habitat for some animals, so maybe I'll leave that. Mostly what's up here is bracken, that's easily dealt with. Got a couple of trees, not that big. Another little stand of tea tree here, but not that big. So, actually, if I can bash my way through this little clump of tea tree, it's very, very doable. Very doable indeed.